The chamber was massive, larger than any building Jacob Hayes had ever seen on Earth. Its walls were made of clear crystal that stretched up so high he could barely see the ceiling. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats that circled around the center floor. Their eyes, in all different colors and shapes, stared down at him with cold judgment. Jacob stood alone in the middle of the chamber. His uniform was torn and dirty. Dark stains covered the blue fabric. He had not been allowed to wash or change clothes for 3 weeks. The guards had kept him in a small cell with barely enough room to lie down. They gave him food that tasted like metal and water that burned his throat. Now he was here, standing trial before the Grand Tribunal of the Galactic Coalition. 7 judges sat on a raised platform in front of him. Each one belonged to a different alien species. Their faces showed no emotion as they looked at him. To them he was already guilty. This trial was just a formality. The lead prosecutor stood and began to speak. His name was Zelma, and he belonged to the Verati race. The Verati looked almost like humans, but their skin was pale blue and their eyes were completely black. Zelma wore long robes that dragged on the floor as he walked. His voice was smooth and confident. "Commander Jacob Hayes of Earth," Zelma said, his words echoing through the chamber. "You stand accused of 3 crimes. First, the destruction of the sacred temple on Karath Prime. Second, the theft of an ancient artifact from that temple. Third, the murder of 17 coalition peacekeepers who tried to stop you." Jacob felt his hands shake. He clenched them into fists to make them stop. "I did not do these things," he said. His voice sounded small in the huge room. Zelma smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Of course you deny it. All criminals deny their crimes. But we have evidence. So much evidence that your guilt is beyond question." The prosecutor waved his hand, and a huge screen appeared in the air above the chamber. It showed a video recording. Jacob recognized his ship, the Wayfarer, in orbit around a planet. The planet was Karath Prime. As everyone watched, bright lights shot down from the ship toward the surface. Moments later, a massive explosion bloomed on the planet below. The screen changed to show the ruins of a beautiful temple, now nothing but broken stone and fire. "This footage," Zelma said, "was captured by Coalition surveillance satellites. It clearly shows your ship firing weapons at the temple. The energy signature matches human military weapons. There is no doubt." Jacob shook his head hard. "That is not true. I never fired any weapons. My ship does not even have weapons powerful enough to do that kind of damage. Someone has changed that video. They have lied." Several of the aliens in the audience made loud noises. Some laughed. Others made sounds that Jacob could not identify. The message was clear. They did not believe him, Zelma continued. "We also have witnesses. 3 Verati citizens saw you at the temple before it was destroyed. They saw you enter the inner chamber. They saw you take the artifact. When they tried to stop you, you killed them and 17 peacekeepers who came to help." "I did not kill anyone," Jacob said, louder this time. "I was there, yes, but I came to help. The temple was already destroyed when I arrived. I found survivors in the rubble. I was trying to save them when your people attacked me." A female Verati in white robes stood up from the audience. She pointed at Jacob with a long, thin finger. "Liar, you killed my brother. He was one of the peacekeepers. His blood is on your hands." Jacob looked at her. He saw real pain in her black eyes. She truly believed he had killed her brother, but he had not. Someone had made her believe a lie. His attorney, Vess, stood up next to him. Vess was a Loranian, a species that looked like tall, thin lizards with golden scales. Vess had been the only one willing to defend Jacob. Even though the Loranian knew it was a case he would probably lose, he had agreed to try. "Honored judges," Vess said in his hissing voice, "the evidence presented has not been properly verified. The video could have been altered. The witnesses could be mistaken. My client deserves a fair investigation." One of the judges, a creature with 6 eyes and purple skin, spoke. "The evidence has been examined by our best technicians. It is real. The witnesses have been tested for truthfulness. They are telling the truth. Your client is guilty." The trial continued for hours. Zelma presented more evidence. Pictures of the destroyed temple, reports from investigators, testimony from more witnesses. Each piece of evidence made Jacob look more guilty. Each witness said they had seen him do terrible things. Vess tried to fight back. He pointed out problems with the evidence. He asked difficult questions to the witnesses. But every time he made a good point, Zelma had an answer ready. It felt like a trap that had been carefully prepared long before Jacob ever arrived at this station. Jacob had been a commander in Earth's deep space exploration fleet for 12 years. He had visited dozens of planets. He had met hundreds of alien species. He had always tried to represent humanity with honor and respect. He had never broken a law. He had never hurt anyone who did not deserve it, but none of that mattered now. Humanity was still new to the galactic community. Humans had only made contact with alien life 100 years ago. Many of the older species still did not trust humans. They thought humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. The Coalition had been looking for a reason to put humanity in its place, to remind humans that they were small and weak compared to the ancient civilizations that ruled the galaxy. Jacob had given them that reason, even though he had done nothing wrong. As the sun outside the crystal walls began to set, casting strange colored light through the chamber, the judges stood up. They walked through a door behind their platform to discuss the verdict. Jacob knew they would not take long. They had already decided he was guilty before the trial even started. Vess put a clawed hand on Jacob's shoulder. "I am sorry," the Loranian said quietly. "I tried, but they will not listen." Jacob nodded. "I know, thank you for trying. You are a good person, Vess." The Loranian's golden scales seemed to dim with sadness. "You are innocent. I know this in my heart, but knowing the truth and proving it are different things." They waited in silence. Around them, the alien audience talked in dozens of different languages. Some seemed happy that a human would finally be punished. Others looked uncomfortable, as if they suspected something was wrong but were afraid to speak up. After only 40 minutes, the judges returned. That was a bad sign. If they had truly discussed the evidence carefully, they would have taken much longer. The lead judge, the one with 6 eyes, stood up. The entire chamber fell silent. "We have reached our verdict," the judge said. His voice was deep and final. "On all 3 charges, we find the accused guilty. Commander Jacob Hayes, you are sentenced to death by neural dissolution. The sentence will be carried out immediately." The chamber erupted with noise. Some aliens cheered. Others gasped. A few stood up and walked out, unable to watch what would happen next. Jacob felt his legs go weak. Neural dissolution was one of the most painful ways to die. It would destroy his mind slowly, piece by piece, until nothing was left. He had seen it done once to a violent criminal. The screaming had lasted for nearly an hour. Guards in black armor moved toward him. They grabbed his arms roughly and began to drag him toward a door at the side of the chamber. Jacob did not fight. There was no point. These guards were twice his size and heavily armed. As they pulled him through the door, Jacob took one last look at the chamber. Somewhere in the galaxy, his sister Amy was probably putting her son Peter to bed. She had no idea that her brother was about to die. He would never see them again, never see Earth again, never feel the warm sun on his face or smell the ocean air. The door closed behind him with a sound like thunder. The last thing Jacob heard was Zelma's smooth voice saying, "Justice has been served." But deep beneath the station, in a vault filled with confiscated items, something ancient stirred, something that had been waiting for millions of years, something that recognized injustice when it saw it. The artifact began to wake up. The golden light filled the corridor like a living thing. Everyone stopped moving, stopped talking, stopped breathing. They could not look away from the images forming in the air. The witness was showing them the truth, and there was no way to deny it or ignore it. The scene shifted to Kareth Prime, 4 weeks earlier. The planet's surface appeared, showing the beautiful temple that had stood there for thousands of years. Its walls were covered in carvings that told the history of an ancient race. Gardens surrounded it, filled with plants that grew nowhere else in the galaxy. Then figures appeared in the vision. Varati soldiers in black armor moving quietly through the gardens. They carried weapons and equipment. This was not a patrol or a security team. This was a strike force on a secret mission. The crowd in the corridor gasped. Zelma's face went even paler. "This is fake," he said, but his voice shook. "More human lies." Jacob did not respond. He did not need to. The witness continued showing the truth. The Varati soldiers entered the temple. They moved through the halls until they reached the inner chamber, the most sacred place. There, sitting on a stone pedestal, was the obsidian sphere, the artifact, the witness itself. The soldiers tried to take it. They reached out with their hands and with special tools. But every time they got close, energy fields pushed them back. The artifact would not let them touch it. It had not chosen them. It would never choose them. The leader of the Varati team, a tall soldier with scars on his face, stepped forward. Jacob recognized him now. He had seen this man briefly during his own visit to Kareth Prime. The man's name was Krell, and he was Zelma's younger brother. In division, Krell spoke to his team. "If we cannot take it, no one can. Destroy the temple, make it look like an accident or an attack. We will find someone to blame later." The soldiers placed explosives throughout the temple, powerful charges that would bring the whole structure down. They set the timer and left quickly, but they were not alone. Temple guardians, peaceful monks who had protected this place for generations, came running when they heard the intruders. The Verati soldiers opened fire. The monks had no weapons. They died where they stood. 17 monks, 17 innocent lives taken just to hide a crime. The vision showed the Verati leaving in their ship just before the explosives went off. The temple collapsed in a massive fireball. The sacred gardens burned. Smoke rose into the sky. The crowd watching in the corridor was silent now. Many had tears running down their faces. Some of the Verati in the group looked sick. They had not known. Most of them had truly believed that Jacob was guilty. But the witness was not done showing the truth. The scene changed again. Now it showed Jacob's ship, the Wayfarer, approaching Kareth Prime 3 hours after the explosion. Jacob had been on a routine survey mission, charting a nearby asteroid field. He had received a distress signal from the planet and changed course to investigate. The vision showed Jacob landing his ship near the ruins. He climbed out and stood looking at the destruction, horror on his face. He activated his communicator and called for help from the nearest coalition station. Then he began searching the rubble for survivors. He found 6 people still alive, buried under fallen stones. He pulled them out one by one, using emergency medical supplies from his ship to treat their injuries. His uniform got torn and stained with their blood as he worked, the same uniform he wore now. While Jacob was trying to save lives, Krell and his team returned. They had been watching from orbit. They could not let Jacob report what he had seen. They could not let him rescue witnesses who might tell the truth. The Verati soldiers landed and approached Jacob. In the vision, Jacob looked up from treating an injured monk and smiled, relieved to see coalition forces arriving to help. He thought they were there to assist with the rescue. "Thank the stars you are here," Vision Jacob said. "We need medical teams immediately. There are more people buried in the ruins." Krell raised his weapon and fired at the injured monk Jacob had just been treating. The monk died instantly. Jacob stared in shock, unable to understand what was happening. "Kill him," Krell ordered his team. "Make it look like he fought back. He is human. Everyone will believe he did this." The soldiers opened fire. Jacob ran, barely escaping behind some fallen pillars. He was not a soldier. He was an explorer, a scientist. But he had basic training, and his survival instincts kicked in. The vision showed the next hour in quick flashes. Jacob running through ruins. Soldiers hunting him. Jacob managing to reach his ship and take off despite taking damage. The Wayfarer limping into space with the Verati in pursuit. Then the scene shifted to a command center somewhere on a Verati military station. Zelma stood there with several high-ranking officials. They watched footage of the chase on their screens. "We have a problem," one official said. "The human escaped. He knows too much." Zelma smiled his cold smile. "Then we make him the criminal instead. We accuse him of the very crime we committed. We fabricate evidence. We find witnesses who will swear they saw him do it. Humans are already mistrusted by many in the coalition. It will be easy to make people believe one of them finally showed their true violent nature." Another official, this one wearing judicial robes, nodded. "I can ensure that trial goes the way we need it to. I have influence over 2 of the judges on the Grand Tribunal." The vision zoomed in on this official's face. It was Judge Rend, one of the 7 who had just declared Jacob guilty. Several people in the corridor pointed at the vision and shouted in anger. Rend himself was there in the crowd, trying to back away, but other aliens grabbed him and held him in place. The witness showed more, meeting after meeting where Zelma and his conspirators planned every detail of Jacob's frame-up. They altered the surveillance video to show the Wayfarer firing on the temple. They coached witnesses to lie. They made sure Jacob's attorney would be someone with little power and less support. But there was one more revelation that shocked everyone. The vision showed a human man entering Zelma's office. He was middle-aged with gray hair and expensive clothing. His name appeared in glowing letters above his head as the witness identified him for all to see. Stephen Cole, diplomatic attached from Earth, representative of humanity to the coalition. In the vision, Stephen sat down across from Zelma. "You want to put humanity in its place," Stephen said. "I want power and position. We can help each other." Zelma leaned forward. "You would betray your own species." Stephen laughed. "Species loyalty is outdated thinking. I look after myself first. You give me what I want, and I will make sure no one from Earth interferes with your plans. I will keep the human government from investigating too deeply. I will even testify against Hayes if needed." They shook hands, a human and a Verati, working together to destroy an innocent man. The vision faded. The golden light poured back into Jacob's body, leaving the corridor in normal darkness that seemed even deeper by comparison. For a long moment, nobody moved. They were all trying to process what they had seen. Then chaos erupted. "Arrest them," someone shouted. Security guards moved towards Zelma and Judge Rend. The two conspirators tried to run, but there were too many people blocking the corridor. They were trapped. Zelma pointed at Jacob with a shaking hand. "You cannot trust that artifact. It shows you what it wants you to see. This is all lies, human technology." Jacob felt the witness pulse inside him. Power flowed through his body, power that he was only beginning to understand. He took a step toward Zelma, and the Verati fell back against the wall. "The witness does not lie," Jacob said. "It cannot lie. It exists to reveal truth, no matter how painful that truth might be." Everyone here saw the same vision. Everyone felt whether it was real or fake. "You all know I am telling the truth." He was right. The witness had not just shown images, it had let everyone feel the reality of what happened. They had experienced the emotions, the certainty, the undeniable truth of the events. There was no doubt possible. A Catherian security officer stepped forward with energy cuffs. She locked them around Zelma's wrists. "You are under arrest for murder, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." More guards arrested Judge Rend. They dragged both aliens away through the crowd. People shouted at them, calling them murderers and traitors. Some tried to hit them, but the guards kept them back. Station Commander Lisa Grant pushed through the crowd until she stood in front of Jacob. She looked at the glowing mark on his chest, then up at his face. His eyes still had traces of golden light in them. "Commander Hayes," she said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I apologize for the grave injustice done to you. Your name is cleared. You are free." Jacob nodded slowly, but he did not feel relief. He felt hollow. Yes, the truth had been revealed. Yes, he was free, but 17 innocent monks were still dead. He had been hours away from execution. And how many others in the galaxy suffered from injustice while people like Zelma held power? The witness spoke in his mind, sensing his thoughts. "This is why I chose you. You do not just want justice for yourself. You want justice for all. That is the mark of a true bearer." More security forces arrived, led by a tall Verati officer with honest eyes. She looked at the scene, at Jacob with his glowing mark, at the angry crowd. "What happened here?" Lisa Grant explained quickly. The guards dragged Jacob through long metal corridors. Their grip on his arms was so tight it hurt. He stumbled several times, but they just pulled him along without slowing down. Other aliens moved out of the way as they passed, their faces showing fear or disgust, or both. The execution chamber was at the lowest level of Station Veritas. The station was huge, almost like a small city floating in space. It served as the Coalition's main judicial center. Trials happened here every day. Most ended with the accused being sent to prison colonies on distant planets. Some ended in death. Jacob tried to think of his family to distract himself from what was coming. He remembered the last time he had seen Amy, right before he left Earth for this mission. She had hugged him tight and told him to be careful. Little Peter had given him a drawing of a spaceship. Jacob had kept that drawing in his quarters on the Wayfarer. He wondered what would happen to his ship now. The guards stopped in front of a thick metal door. One of them pressed his hand against a panel on the wall. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the execution chamber was small and cold. The walls were white and completely bare. In the center of the room stood a metal platform with restraints for arms, legs, and head. Above the platform, 6 neural disruptors hung from the ceiling like the heads of sleeping snakes. "Get on the platform," one guard ordered. His voice came out distorted through his helmet. Jacob did not move. He knew he could not escape, but some part of him refused to cooperate with his own murder. The guards did not wait. They lifted him up and slammed him down onto the platform. His head hit the metal hard enough to make his vision blur for a moment. They worked quickly to strap him down. Thick bands of some kind of flexible metal closed around his wrists, ankles, and forehead. Jacob tried to pull free, but the restraints did not move even a little bit. He was completely helpless. One of the guards walked to a control panel on the wall. "Neural disruptors powering up," he said. "Execution will commence in 5 minutes." The other guards left the room. Only one remained, standing by the door with his arms crossed. Through the small window in the door, Jacob could see faces pressed against the glass. Witnesses who wanted to watch him die. He recognized some of them from the trial. The female Verati who had lost her brother was there, tears running down her pale blue face. The neural disruptors began to hum. The sound was high and sharp, like metal scraping against metal. Jacob felt his heart beating so fast it hurt. His hands were shaking inside the restraints. He closed his eyes and tried to steady his breathing. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. He had not committed any crimes. He had spent his whole career trying to do the right thing. He had helped people. He had explored new worlds peacefully. He had followed every rule and regulation. And this was how it ended. The humming grew louder. The disruptors were almost fully charged. In a few minutes they would activate and begin tearing apart his mind. He would feel everything. He would know what was happening as his memories, his thoughts, his very sense of self was destroyed piece by piece. Jacob opened his eyes one last time. He wanted to see something, anything, before it was over. The white ceiling above him was blank and cold. No comfort there. He thought of the blue sky on Earth. He thought of the ocean. He thought of Amy's smile and Peter's laugh. Then everything changed. Deep beneath the execution chamber, 5 levels down in the evidence vault, the artifact opened its eyes. It had no physical eyes, of course. It was just a sphere of black stone about the size of a human fist. But it could see, it could feel, and right now, it felt injustice so profound that it could no longer remain sleeping. The sphere had been brought to Station Veritas 3 weeks ago. Shortly after it was recovered from the ruins on Karath Prime, Coalition scientists had examined it for days. They had scanned it with every kind of equipment they had. They had tried to activate it, to understand what it was and what it could do. Nothing worked. The sphere remained dark and silent. They did not know what they had. They did not know that this artifact was older than their entire civilization, older than most stars in the galaxy. It had been created by beings called the Progenitors, a race so advanced that they had learned to shape reality itself. The Progenitors had seeded artifacts like this one throughout the galaxy before they disappeared. Each artifact had a purpose. This one was called the Witness. Its job was to find beings who truly understood justice. Beings who would stand up for what was right, even when it cost them everything. That the Witness had been waiting for millions of years. Countless beings had passed near it. None had been worthy. But now, 5 levels above, an innocent being was about to die for crimes he did not commit. The Witness felt the weight of that injustice. It felt Jacob's determination to hold on to the truth, even in the face of death. This was a worthy bearer. The sphere began to glow with golden light, soft at first, then brighter and brighter. The scientists who were still working in the vault stepped back in surprise. One of them reached for a communicator to call security. Before he could speak, the sphere lifted up off the examination table. The containment field that surrounded it simply stopped working. The reinforced glass case shattered into a million pieces. Alarms began to blare throughout the station. The sphere shot forward, moving so fast it was just a blur of golden light. It smashed through the vault door, tearing the thick metal like paper. It flew down the corridor, ignoring the scientists who dove out of its way. Security teams responded immediately. Guards poured into the corridors, weapons raised. They saw the glowing sphere racing toward them and opened fire. Energy blasts filled the air, each one powerful enough to blow a hole through solid steel. The sphere did not slow down. The energy blasts passed right through it as if it was not there. It existed partially outside normal space, in dimensions that the Coalition scientists did not even know about. Physical attacks meant nothing to it. Stop that thing, someone shouted over the station's communication system, but nothing could stop the Witness. It had found its bearer, and it would reach him no matter what stood in the way. Station Commander Lisa Grant was in her office when the alarms went off. She was human, one of the few who held a high position in the Coalition. She had watched Jacob's trial with a sick feeling in her stomach. She knew what it was like to be judged unfairly just for being human. Now she stared at the security monitors in shock. The sphere was tearing through the station like it had a mind of its own. Behind it, dozens of guards chased uselessly. Ahead of it, more guards were setting up barricades and heavy weapons. What in the name of Earth is that thing? She whispered. Her second officer, a Catherian named Plev, checked his console. It is the artifact recovered from Karath Prime. It has somehow activated. It appears to be heading for the execution chamber. Lisa felt her blood run cold. Jacob Hayes is in the execution chamber. Yes, Commander. She grabbed her communicator. This is Grant. Stop the execution immediately. I repeat, stop the execution. But she was too late. In the execution chamber, the neural disruptors reached full power. The guard at the control panel pressed the activation button. The disruptors lowered toward Jacob's head, energy crackling between their points. Jacob felt the first touch of the neural field. It was like ice water being poured directly into his brain. The pain was beyond anything he had ever experienced. He tried to scream, but the restraint on his head held his jaw shut. Then the chamber door exploded inward. The metal door did not just open, it was blown completely off its hinges, flying across the room and smashing into the far wall. The guard who had been standing there was thrown to the ground. The witnesses outside screamed and ran. Through the smoke and debris, the golden sphere floated into the chamber. It moved slowly now, almost gently. The light it gave off pushed back the shadows. The neural disruptors powered down automatically, their circuits overloaded by the artifact's energy field. Jacob's vision was blurry from the pain, but he could see the sphere approaching. It stopped right in front of his face, hovering in the air. He could see symbols carved into its surface, symbols that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. For a long moment, nothing happened. Jacob and the sphere simply looked at each other. Then a voice spoke inside Jacob's mind. It was not words exactly, but he understood the meaning perfectly. Seeker found. Trial of worth initiated. The sphere moved forward and pressed against Jacob's chest. It began to sink into his body, merging with him. Jacob tried to scream again, but this time not from pain. This time from the overwhelming flood of knowledge that poured into his mind. He saw the history of the progenitors. He saw the creation of the witness. He saw millions of years pass in seconds. He understood things about the universe that no human had ever known. The artifact was rewriting him, changing him at the most basic level. The restraints on the platform broke apart like they were made of dust. Jacob sat up, golden light pouring from his eyes and mouth. The guard who had tried to execute him backed away in terror. Outside the chamber, more guards arrived with weapons ready. They saw Jacob standing on the platform, the golden mark of the artifact glowing on his chest, and they did not know what to do. Jacob looked at his hands. He could feel the power. 3 days passed before things calmed down enough for Jacob to think clearly. He spent those days in a private medical facility, being examined by coalition doctors who wanted to understand what the artifact had done to his body. The results confused them. Jacob was still human in most ways, but his cells had been changed at a level they could not fully measure. He was stronger, faster, and could heal from injuries that would normally take weeks in just hours. But the physical changes were nothing compared to what had happened to his mind. The witness had given him knowledge that no human should have. He understood alien languages he had never studied. He could see energy patterns that normal eyes could not detect. Most importantly, he could sense truth and lies as easily as he could see colors. It was overwhelming at first. Every person who entered his room, Jacob immediately knew things about them, whether they were honest or corrupt, whether they had come to help or to spy, whether their concern was real or false. The witness filtered everything through its ancient understanding of justice. On the third day, Ves came to visit. The Loranian attorney entered the room nervously, his golden scales catching the light. Jacob could sense his fear, but also his genuine care and relief. Commander Hayes, Ves said, bowing slightly in the Loranian way. I am pleased to see you well. I wanted to thank you. Jacob sat up in the hospital bed. Thank me? For what? You were the one who tried to defend me when no one else would. Ves made a sound like soft clicking, which was how Loranians laughed. I tried and failed. But you saved not just yourself. You saved the idea that justice still matters. Many of us had begun to lose faith. The coalition has been corrupt for so long that we thought it was just the way things had to be. You showed us that truth can still win. Jacob felt uncomfortable with the praise. I did not do anything. The witness did it all. No, Ves said firmly. The artifact chose you. Of all the beings in the galaxy, it found you worthy. That means something. That means you have qualities that most of us do not. Before Jacob could respond, the door opened again. Station Commander Lisa Grant entered, followed by 2 other humans Jacob did not recognize. One was a woman in her 50s with short black hair and the insignia of an Earthfleet admiral. The other was a younger man in civilian clothes who carried himself like someone important. Lisa made introductions. Commander Hayes, this is Admiral Kate Murphy from Earthfleet Command, and Director Paul Chen from Earth's Coalition Relations Office. Admiral Murphy studied Jacob with sharp eyes. Good to finally meet you, Commander. You have caused quite a storm. Half the Coalition wants to give you medals. The other half wants to lock you up and study that artifact. Jacob stood up and saluted. Admiral, she waved away the formality. At ease, son. We have a lot to discuss. The Coalition High Council has requested a meeting with you. They want to understand what that thing inside you is, and what you plan to do with it. I do not plan to do anything, Jacob said. I just want to go home. I want to see my sister and my nephew. I want to sleep in my own bed and forget this nightmare ever happened. Director Chen spoke up. I am afraid that is not going to be possible. Commander, Not for a while, at least. You are the single most important being in the galaxy right now. That artifact chose you for a reason, and everyone wants to know why. The witness stirred inside Jacob, and suddenly he understood. It showed him visions of the future, possible paths his life could take. In one path, he went home to Earth and tried to live a normal life. But people would never leave him alone. Governments would want to use him. Scientists would want to study him. Criminals would want to kill him. There would be no peace. In another path, he accepted what he had become and used the power the witness had given him. He became something the galaxy desperately needed, a champion of true justice. Someone who could not be bribed or threatened or deceived. Someone who would stand up for the innocent no matter who the guilty were. Jacob closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, he had made his choice. The witness was created by beings called the progenitors, he said. It has been waiting for millions of years to find someone worthy. Its purpose is to reveal truth and ensure justice. It chose me because I understand what it feels like to be helpless against a corrupt system, because I will never forget that fear and pain. Admiral Murphy leaned forward. So what does that mean? What are you going to do? The Coalition Council wants to meet with me, Jacob asked. Then I will meet with them, and I will tell them that things need to change. The corruption that allowed people like Zelma and Stephen Cole to gain power has to be rooted out. Beings like those monks on Kerith Prime deserve protection. The innocent deserve to be heard. Vess made his clicking laugh sound again. You are going to lecture the most powerful leaders in the galaxy about morality. This I want to see. Jacob smiled, the first real smile he had managed in weeks. Will you come with me? I could use a good lawyer at my side. The Loranian's scales brightened with pleasure. It would be my honor. The meeting with the Coalition High Council took place 2 days later in the Grand Assembly Hall, the largest chamber on Station Veritas. 15 council members sat at a curved table that overlooked the main floor. Each represented one of the major species in the Coalition. They were the most powerful beings in known space. Jacob walked onto the floor with Vess beside him. Admiral Murphy and Director Chen sat in the observation area above, along with hundreds of other dignitaries and representatives. News crews from every Coalition world were broadcasting the meeting live. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. The Catherian Council leader, an old female named Tessa, spoke first. Commander Jacob Hayes, we have asked you here to discuss the artifact you now carry. We need to understand what it is, what it can do, and whether it poses a threat to galactic security. Jacob stood straight and spoke clearly. The witness is not a weapon. It is a tool for revealing truth. It cannot be used to harm anyone. Its only power is to show what is real and what is false. A Verati council member, an older male trying to distance himself from what Zelma had done, spoke next. That kind of power is dangerous in its own way. Truth can destabilize governments. It can cause chaos. How do we know you will use it responsibly? The witness pulsed inside Jacob, and he felt it wanting to show these leaders exactly who they really were. It could reveal every corrupt deal, every lie, every abuse of power sitting at that table. But Jacob held it back. That would not help. That would only make them afraid. You are right that truth can be dangerous, Jacob said. But lies are more dangerous. The conspiracy that tried to kill me succeeded because corruption was allowed to grow unchecked. How many other innocent beings have suffered because people in power protected each other instead of doing what was right? The chamber went quiet. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Tessa leaned forward. What do you want, Commander Hayes? Revenge, power, a position in the coalition government? No, Jacob said. I want to do what the witness chose me to do. I want to help beings who cannot help themselves. I want to investigate cases where the truth has been buried. I want to give voice to those who are not heard. A human council member, an elderly woman named Margaret Foster, smiled slightly. You want to be a champion of justice. That is noble but naive. The galaxy is too large, too complex. One person cannot fix all its problems. I know that, Jacob admitted. But I can fix some problems. I can save some lives. That has to be enough. Director Chen stood up in the observation area. Earth supports Commander Hayes. We propose that the Coalition create a new position for him. Give him a ship and a crew. Give him the authority to investigate cases of injustice anywhere in Coalition space. Let him prove that the witness chose correctly. The council members talked among themselves in quiet voices. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked relieved, as if Jacob's proposal gave them a way to solve a problem they did not know how to handle. Finally, Tessa raised her hand for silence. We will discuss this proposal in private session. Commander Hayes, you are dismissed. We will contact you with our decision. Jacob left the hall with Vess. Outside, Admiral Murphy caught up with them. That went better than I expected. I thought they might try to lock you up or dissect you. They still might, Jacob said. They are afraid of what I represent. I am proof that their system is broken, and that is exactly why they will agree to your proposal, the Admiral said. Because if they do not, you become a symbol of their failure. But if they give you official sanction, they can claim they are fixing things from within. She was right. The next day, the Council announced their decision. They would create a new division called the Office of Galactic Justice. Jacob would lead it with the title of Chief Investigator. He would be given a ship, a crew of volunteers, and broad authority to investigate suspected injustices throughout Coalition space. That the news spread quickly. Some people celebrated, others protested, claiming it was too much power for one being, but most seemed cautiously hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, things could actually change. Jacob spent the next 2 months preparing. The Coalition gave him a ship they had seized from smugglers, a fast cruiser with advanced sensors and weapons systems. Jacob named it the Sentinel. The Sentinel dropped out of faster-than-light travel above the planet Draka 7. Through the main view screen, Jacob could see the brown and gray surface of the mining world. It was not a beautiful planet. There were no oceans, no forests, just endless rocky terrain dotted with industrial facilities and excavation sites. Approaching standard orbit, Rachel Moore reported from the pilot station. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Atmospheric conditions are stable. We can land anywhere you want, Captain. Jacob still felt strange being called Captain. 3 months ago, he had been a simple exploration commander. Now he led a ship dedicated to hunting down injustice. The witness pulsed inside him, confirming they were in the right place. Take us down to the main colony, he ordered. Let them know we are here on official Coalition business. Vess looked up from his station. I am reading increased security measures across the colony. They have lockdown protocols active. Whatever is happening here, they do not want outside attention. That was exactly why they had come. 2 weeks ago, the witness had detected something wrong on Draka 7. It was hard to explain how the artifact sensed injustice across vast distances of space, but it did. The feeling had been so strong that Jacob could not ignore it. Investigation revealed that the mining colony's management had accused 140 workers of sabotage and terrorism. The workers were being held in detention, awaiting execution. The corporate owners, a company called Stellar Mining Incorporated, claimed the workers had damaged equipment and caused explosions that killed 3 supervisors. But when Jacob looked at the official reports through the witness's perception, he saw holes in the story, inconsistencies that suggested things were not as they seemed. That was enough to bring him here. The Sentinel landed at the colony's main spaceport. As Jacob and his team disembarked, they were met by a large group of security guards in corporate uniforms. The guards carried energy, rifles, and war armor. They looked more like soldiers than simple security. A man in an expensive suit stepped forward. He was human, overweight, with slicked back hair and a smile that did not reach his eyes. His name tag identified him as Douglas Kane, colony manager. Captain Hayes, Kane said, extending his hand. This is unexpected. We were not informed the Coalition was sending anyone. Jacob did not shake the offered hand. The witness was already showing him that Kane was lying about almost everything. That is the point of surprise inspections. I want to see the detained workers. Kane's smile faltered. I am afraid that is not possible. They are dangerous criminals. For your own safety, I cannot allow contact. I am not asking for permission, Jacob said calmly. The mark on his chest began to glow faintly through his uniform. I have full authority from the Coalition High Council. You will take me to the detention center now, or I will find it myself. The security guards raised their weapons slightly. Kane held up a hand to stop them from doing anything foolish. He had obviously heard about what Jacob could do. Fighting him would not end well. Very well, Kane said, his voice tight. Follow me. The detention center was on the edge of the colony, a squat building made of concrete and reinforced steel. Guards stood at every entrance. As Jacob's group approached, he could feel the witness reacting strongly. Whatever injustice was happening here, it was severe. Inside the building was cold and dark. Cells lined both sides of a long corridor. Jacob walked slowly, looking at each cell. The workers inside were from several different species. Catherians, Loranians, a few humans. They looked exhausted and afraid. Some had visible injuries. One cell held a young human woman with short brown hair and determined eyes. She stood up when she saw Jacob, gripping the bars of her cell. "Are you here to help us?" she asked. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been yelling for days. Please, we did not do what they say we did. We are innocent. Jacob stopped in front of her cell. What is your name? Claire Davis. I have been working here for 2 years. We all have. We are good workers. We follow the rules. Kane spoke from behind Jacob. Do not listen to her. She is the ringleader. She organized the sabotage. The witness pulsed, and Jacob felt the absolute certainty of truth. Claire was telling the truth. Kane was lying. He turned to face the manager. Tell me what happened, Jacob said. From the beginning, Kane looked nervous now. 3 weeks ago, explosions damaged several excavation sites. 3 supervisors died. When we investigated, we found evidence that the workers had planted the explosives. They left messages claiming it was in protest of working conditions. What working conditions? Vess asked, taking notes on a data tab. Some workers complained about long hours and safety protocols. Kane said dismissively. Nonsense, of course. We follow all coalition labor laws. The witness showed Jacob a different story. He saw exhausted workers forced to operate dangerous equipment without proper safety gear. He saw supervisors threatening anyone who complained. He saw Kane and other managers cutting costs by ignoring basic safety rules. You are lying, Jacob said simply. Kane's face went red. How dare you accuse me? I have documentation, video evidence, witness statements, all fabricated, Jacob said. He raised his hand, and golden light flowed from his palm, the same light that had revealed the truth on Station Veritas. Everyone in the detention center stopped what they were doing, and watched as images formed in the air. Divisions showed what really happened on 7. Workers operating failing equipment because management refused to pay for repairs. Safety sensors deliberately disabled to increase production quotas. Workers complaining to supervisors and being threatened with termination. Then came the day of the explosions. The images showed equipment failures, not sabotage. Old mining charges stored improperly had become unstable. When they exploded, they caused a chain reaction. 3 supervisors died, yes, but it was because they had ignored safety protocols themselves. The visions showed. Kane and other managers in a meeting room after the disaster. They knew the truth. They knew it was their fault, but they also knew they could lose their lucrative contracts if the real cause came out. We blamed the workers, Vision Kane said. We say they sabotaged the equipment. We find some evidence, plant it if we have to, then we execute them as terrorists. It sends a message and covers up our mistakes. The other managers agreed. They spent days building their false case. They altered video footage. They coached security guards to lie as witnesses. They even wrote fake messages from the workers claiming responsibility. When the visions faded, everyone in the detention center was silent. The guards looked sick. Some had lowered their weapons. They had truly believed they were guarding dangerous criminals. Now they knew they had been part of a conspiracy to murder innocent people. Kane backed away toward the exit. This is not over. Stellar Mining has powerful friends in the coalition. You cannot just come here and destroy my career based on some alien trick. Jacob walked toward him slowly. The witness's power made him seem larger, more imposing. It is not a trick. It is the truth. And your career is the least of your worries. You are going to execute 140 innocent beings to hide your own crimes. That is mass murder. I was following company policy, Kane said desperately. My superiors ordered me to handle the situation. I am just following orders. That excuse did not work for war criminals, and it will not work for you, Jacob said. He nodded to VS Call Coalition Security. Have them send a team to arrest Kane and everyone else involved. Also send medical personnel for the workers. Kane tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Jacob moved with the enhanced speed the artifact gave him. He caught the manager easily and pushed him against the wall. You will face real justice now, Jacob said. The kind you tried to deny these people. Over the next 2 days, Jacob's team investigated every aspect of the Draka 7 operation. The witness helped them find hidden records, deleted files, and secret communications. The evidence of corporate corruption was overwhelming. 17 managers and supervisors were arrested, including several executives from Stellar Mining's home office who had known about the cover-up. The coalition sent investigators to examine other Stellar Mining operations and found similar problems on 4 other worlds. The workers were released and given full compensation. The Catherian engineer Torque worked with colony maintenance teams to repair all the failing equipment and implement proper safety measures. Dr. Linda Cross treated injuries that some workers had sustained during their detention. On the 3rd day, Claire Davis came to see Jacob on the Sentinel. She looked much better now, clean and rested, though her eyes still showed the trauma she had been through. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "If you had not come, we would all be dead. They were going to execute us tomorrow." Jacob felt the weight of that knowledge. One more day and they would have been too late. "You do not need to thank me. Making sure innocent people do not suffer is my job now." "Still," Claire said, "you saved 140 lives. That matters. That matters so much." After she left, Jacob stood at the observation window in his quarters, looking out at the stars. The witness pulsed inside him with quiet satisfaction. This was why it had been created. This was why it had waited so long to find a bearer. Justice had been served. But Jacob knew this was just the beginning.